Hey, welcome back to the podcast. We're here with Des Hague, who is an innovator in the international business community. He's worked at Centerplate, Safeway, IHOP, Maytag, and so many more. And he has a book out there called 15 Minutes of Shame, which we're going to find out about his story, his kind of controversial story and things that happen and how your life can just change because of Twitter in just a few moments and what we can do. So Des, glad to be speaking with you.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me. Really appreciate it, Robert.
And I appreciate you too. So what are you all about? If someone says, who is Des Hague and what's his history, his personality, his passion, his focus, what's the answer?
I'd like to say they're going to say he makes a difference. He cares about people. My personal motto or ethos is, do well and do good. If you can do those two things, your mom and your mother is going to be pleased. And that's what I try and do. Every single day of my life is to make the world a little bit better. Sounds a little bit corny, but it's what I put into practice on a daily basis. Secondly, you should always lead with laughter. We don't need more serious people in this world right now, saying how bad things are. We got to find positive people who can move forward, who can make a difference, who can be courageous and challenge us all, starting with the man in the mirror, the person in the mirror, to be a better person at the same time.
Fantastic. So do well and do good. I like that a lot because there's like doing well, the Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine building the Death Star, they did well in creating this huge monstrosity, but they didn't necessarily do good. And then there are people out there that have the best hopes and dreams and aspirations, but then they don't really take enough action. They don't really push themselves enough to really put the good out there in the world. So I like those two factors. There's the doing good, there's doing well, and then you say to lead with humor. And so just jumping off the bat, like how do we do that? And what's your technique for humor? Like, do you have any good jokes, or like what's the humor go-to?
Well, I'm English, so I have terrible jokes. But I do, the jokes all revolve around bad teeth and taking ourselves a little bit too serious with a stiff upper lip. No, seriously, about, leading with humor or leading with laughter really, is kind of what I think it's about. And there's many examples. Self-deprecation, we all know, is so positive. If you can make fun of yourself, you've been in a room with people who are uptight, anal retentive, want to send you to the dentist, or you feel like you're in the dentist chair. That's not a good thing. How do you lighten things up? I'm not saying you're going to get a skit on Saturday Night Live. I'm not saying you're going to be a stand-up comedian. But my view is you can connect people. People want to do business and be around people who they trust and like, with emphasis on the like. There's a lot of studies that have been done, Robert, around laughter. And, if we think about the money side of this from a serious A-type leader, laughter and the appropriate use of humor brings the team together. They innovate better, they think better, they execute better. They'll do more than a tough leader will ever be able to get them to do through fear and intimidation. And by the way, 33% more effective. How can you argue with that? That's the hardest lesson. A left-brained leader who doesn't like humor, that's the validation for wanting to bring humor in your life. So it's about everything. It's about how do you approach meetings? How do you bring out the best in people? Do you look at it like it's an open heart surgery when you've got a problem? Or do you invite people to be part of the solution solving team? And if you can do that, then I think you're going to bring, better results. They say it takes 97% more effort to frown than smile. So smile, bring out that in your team, embrace, bring out the best of everybody and every moment that you and person that you come into contact with. That's a daily goal, to leading with laughter, not leading with jokes. Even if you've got some good jokes, that's good, but do it appropriately and at the right time, and knowing when there's a place and space for humor. Sad acts just happen. You don't want to be smiling around and joking, but you certainly don't want to look at a very difficult solution through the lens of negativity. And doomsday, Darth Vader, as you mentioned at the beginning, with their Death Star mentality, you can do better. We can do better. And the ones that do win, and win big.
I love it. Embrace the fun, the humor, make it exciting for the people that you're leading, the people that you're a part of a team with. And it seems like when you and that was an interesting also separation there of there's jokes and there's humor, right? The jokes sometimes are inappropriate or kind of are kind of like recited and canned, and the humor is maybe, and this seems like kind of more of an English thing, right? The American like sitcoms love joke, but then the some of these British shows, there's like no laugh track. I mean, I remember back when like the British Office first came out and no one in America knew what it was, and it would just be like the whole episode would just be like just long cringe, but it was also really funny and enjoyable. And so it seems like when you're like leading a team or giving a presentation or presenting or whatever, people are expecting you to be serious and to just be very straightforward. And it seems like humor in whatever context wakes people up, gives them a hook, makes them realize that this is something new that they haven't really experienced. So then this separates it out in their brain and they need to sit up and pay close attention. And I once heard someone talk about humor as choose a really absurd, crazy position and then defend it. So if someone has a stand-up routine about like self-checkout at the grocery store and how stupid it is, you choose that strange position and then like really rack the brain and think of all kinds of just kind of new and strange observations to make that awkward, difficult position work. And it seems like maybe that kind of logic is required to solve these tough problems that sometimes happen in our business. And so what sorts of problems and solutions do you feel like talking about today? Have you dealt with problems in your business, in your personal life? What's some of the struggles, the failures, the missteps that you think we can learn from today?
Yeah, well, thanks, Robert. And great leading question. I got to make a rebuttal on the self-checkout. As the president of Safeway's perishable division, there's nothing humorous about self-checkout. We're giving people the right and the opportunity to check out if they want, or they can use a cashier. So I'll have none of that, please. But no, in all seriousness, I honestly believe that everybody on this earth at some point is going to have adversity, is going to see and feel adversity. So for me, I think the massive learning and what we can all, kind of get into here is adversity visits us all. Adversity is inevitable. Defeat is optional. Choose carefully. If you feel that you can or cannot overcome it, you're right. And so again, it's about how you choose to turn up. Do you choose to turn up defeated, shrunken, cringing, or do you choose to turn up and make things happen? I feel that you fall down 7 times, you get up 8 times with a smile. That's life, and everybody's going to face it. So, to me, in my book is around 15 minutes of shame. It's one of the worst moments of my life. It's not anything I have got any joy in at all. But it also is a book, through my lessons of life. I've ran 8 companies, all shapes and sizes. IHOP, world's largest family dining chain, ran perishables for Safeway, managed the world's or North America's largest event hospitality company, Centerplate, and many things in between. Ran 7-Eleven's fresh food program, which I was very proud to do. And I would tell you there's lessons from every single one of those roles and being on 20 boards. So I feel that, what I'd like to talk about is how do you make that happen? What are the big things that made a difference? And then also on my personal trauma, and the reason, for the book as well is, you're not defined by your worst moment, Robert. People who let themselves be defined by their worst moment are in for a tough time. So figuring out how you get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving is critically important. Again, you think. So think positive. If we all realized how debilitating negative thoughts were, we wouldn't have them. But we do, alas. We're human. We sometimes play our failures on repeat loop. Nothing worse than that. How do you take that, like Taylor Swift, shake it off? Because I'm a cool, irreverent, musical follower, and move forward. Like Elton John, I'm still standing. Think that you're going to still be standing at the end of this. And candidly, you will be if you can think your way through to being successful. So the things that I believe are important, Robert, as you asked after that monologue, apologies, are if I had to kind of sum it up to maybe 5 key leadership principles that I've developed over time is 1, you do whatever it takes to win, to overcome your obstacles and move forward. That means there's not a meeting that I won't go to. There's not a trip I won't take. There's not a job I won't do. There's not a difficult situation I will not confront face on, front on, and get to resolution. Secondly is we don't spend enough time thinking. We spend more time judging and reacting. Like you think about how much effort, how many laps did Michael Phelps swim? How many serves did Roger Federer do? How many, snaps did Tom Brady take? Johan Cruyff, he's been cited as the founder of the modern day of football, what I would call, or you would call soccer. And he's got a phenomenal quote where he basically says, to touch a ball perfectly in a game, you have to practice that thousands to hundreds of thousands of times. And that all comes back to thinking and then making, don't go in half measured. Figure out what the vision is and then have a plan in place. I call that a plan on a page. What's my vision? What's my objectives? What's my strategy? What are the key deliverables? And then what are the imperatives? All on one page. It's like your little hymn sheet. You can look at that, study that, and deliver on that fanatically. That's what the greats do. And that's the difference between good and great leaders and good and great companies. The third element, if you like, and we've touched on this already, Robert, is lead with laughter. Make sure that you can be self-deprecating to yourself. I remember, it's a funny story. I'm the president of IHOP. We're in Hawaii. We've got all the franchisees from all over the world visiting to listen to this, keynote speak. I'm on stage. I come off. I think it's been a great session. And my 9-year-old at the time came up to me and said, Dad, why do you laugh at yourself? Do you think people aren't going to take you serious if you do that? And I said, actually, it's the opposite of that. They can relate to somebody who feels and talks like them. And then we will get more achieved by being in that mode of togetherness. And what I'm really proud of now, my son's 27, and he does the exact same things. He actually told me a few months ago, he said, Dad, I love what you do. I love that you joke around, have fun, but you present a important message. And I've learned to put that into my life, which is what you want, your sons and your daughters to be better than you are. The fourth element is never stop learning, Robert. My view is, I remember being in the UK. I left school, by the way, at 15, no qualifications. My wife was a senior executive in PepsiCo. She was running Poland. In fact, at one time, she was my boss's boss's boss. She would still say she is my boss, but hey, let's not go there. What I would tell you is when I applied for my MBA without a degree and everything else, that's problematic. But at the time I was running several hundred liquor store operations in the UK. That to me qualified me and showed that I had the aptitude and the capability to do good at school. However, the dean of the school thought not. He rejected my application. I called my wife for some sympathy. She said, Des, stop complaining, do something. Get out there and make it happen. She was on a plane to Germany at the time. I looked at the phone. I felt like I wanted to throw it out the window. I didn't. But it did drive me to drive straight down to London, get into the dean's office and say, I want to apply for an MBA. You've rejected me. Now, today you get arrested for that. So I don't encourage people doing that. But in that time and age, the dean said, listen, a lot of people just can't, they haven't got the aptitude or the capability to get into an MBA program. I said, why don't we just solve this by testing me? And we did. And 2 years later, I graduate magna cum laude. That's what it means about never stop learning, and also to be never defeated. So from that never stop learning, where I got the MBA, I initially thought I wanted that just for the paper. What I learned from that is if you've got a never stop learning mindset, you're in perpetual motion of growth. You are always learning new things. You are always evolving. There's not, and it gives you this incredible curiosity to seek and solve problems. You know, I've been in many industries. I've been in the restaurant business. I've been in the retail business. I've been in the dry goods space. I've been in the tech side. I've been in the CPG world. And every single one of those assignments, I've gone in there saying, I know I'm going to be successful because I know nobody's going to outwork me. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I know nobody's going to outthink me because I've got a never stop learning attitude. And I know I'm never going to be defeated. I love what Matt Higgins on Shark Tank, one of the Shark Tank judges, has to say about, you know, thinking about business and succeeding and what the successful founders have. And what they have is they are all in before there's a critical tipping point of their project being successful. So you know, again, it's having that confidence and courage to drive forward. So that's what I think the key essences of a great leader displays and is, Robert.
Forward thinking and not waiting until you have to be all in, but being all in ahead of time. And just all of these all of these sort of think and grow rich type of mindset and goal setting and productivity kind of strategies, right? Like so few people, I believe, read constantly and learn constantly. And so few people are open to feedback and listening. And so few people even participate in this sort of self-deprecation. Like you hear about, I think it was like Joe Sugarman, copywriter, said to, like, if you have a weakness, like in yourself or in your product, your company, your brand, point out that weakness ahead of time and then just kind of explain why it doesn't matter and then just move on. So that way it's not like you said, like a us versus them, because if you're like guarding those weaknesses and you're not acknowledging them, then it's kind of like you're over here and they're over there. But if you're like together kind of on a journey, then that's more interesting and that's more fun and that can be better received. And I love what you said there about the goal setting. It's like that whole concept of the SMART goals, right? SMART, where yep. So few people, I believe, even have goals. So few people have them written down. And then there are most likely things missing from their goals, right? They're just kind of vague dreams where they don't have the strategy in place and they don't know what they'll do to work as much as they can to give it their all. And they don't know when they've reached their goal. So there's all these things that are easy to say, I've heard that so many times and I'll ignore it. But if you've heard it so many times, then why aren't you implementing it? And then many times when we're always curious and always learning, maybe we revisit something that didn't have relevance to us years ago, but then now 5 or 10 years later, it's like watching a movie you watched as a kid as an adult. You kind of get more out of it and you say, you know, now I know what I need to do to take action. So with all these things that you've accomplished, it seems like you've really like climbed the ladder and gone from thing to thing. Like, what would you say is the secret to your success? Because you talk about these things like, you know, running IHOP, running Safeway perishables, running hundreds of liquor stores. They all seem like superhuman feats. So like, are you a good networker? Do you think bigger than anyone else? Like, how do we tap into some of this energy of like being like larger than life on like an amazing scale?
I think you just got to have, you know, this is not a one thing, moment where, aha, you just need this thing. But if I had to boil it all down, I really do believe you got to have confidence, courage, conviction in yourself. You are going to fail. Get it in your head. No, that's not the end of the world. You move forward. You actually, the Japanese actually embrace failure and scars. They've got a saying for it that I don't want to butcher, but they really do feel that you are a better person when you've seen and experienced failure. Obviously, you don't want to make the same mistake twice, but as long as you learn, evolve, you are a better you. And that's all we can ask. It's like, I love the quote from former President Roosevelt. Be careful of comparing yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself. So I'm not Musk, I'm not Gates, I'm not Bezos. These guys do incredible things. I'm an okay guy. I've done well. There's a lot of people who've done a lot better, but I don't compare myself against them. I work with my own constraints, my own limitations, my own abilities to make me the best person I can be. So I think it really comes down to, if you don't believe in you, who should and would? You've got to say, I can get this done. It's not fake it until you make it. That can be successful to a certain point, but you're not faking it to run a large organization. You've got to have done and have the qualities to do that and lead. So I think whatever it takes is important, having courage, conviction, like I said, and just having an unbelievable mindset that you cannot be defeated. In my situation, which went viral, Twitter tried to cancel me 9 years ago. I'm still standing. I am not going to be defeated by lunatics, keyboard assassins who want to do nothing more than tear somebody else down. My mother died when I was 9, Robert. I left home when I was 15. I was physically abused for several years. I got raped when I was 18, unfortunately and tragically. I was home. I started my own business at 18 and it was a caravan, like one of these food court vans, on a trailer. I crashed that on my first day. I was homeless again. Then I got into corporation, into big business, and have never looked back over the last 30 years. I say to the haters, I've gone through all this. My wife went through breast cancer. My son had concussion. Do you think you can take me down? Again, it's a belief and a mindset. I'm going to go forward. You can continue to hate me. I'll give you other things to hate me about. And that will be because I've not allowed you to cancel me. I will continue to have a voice and do good in this world, regardless of your lunatic behavior.
I love it. So out of all that, it seems like the number one thing to have is courage. And what you've done is there's also kind of something in there about like the story you tell yourself, right, about your past. And it would be really easy to dwell on all the negativity. But even the way that you presented it, you kind of presented it as all these kind of like steps in the staircase and all these inspiring lessons to show to others, because someone out there might have like 1 or 2 or 3 bad things happen to them and think, oh, life's over. And here you are saying, here's this list of like 35 bad things that happen one after another. And if I can make it, so can you. And then there's also that saying of comparison is the thief of joy, where it's so easy just to like say, like, compare yourself to Bill Gates. Like you can't measure up. But then there's also many things that you don't know about Elon Musk or Bill Gates that maybe if you were closer friends with him, he'd maybe come down a few pegs. So it seems like that comparison you're already making is too far apart anyway. So there's kind of maybe even like a built-in buffer of saying that you're probably already doing better than you think you're doing. So like kind of try to flip that comparison bad mindset around and just say like you're already better off than you are. And there's something that you said early on in our conversation about how just there's a tendency to just wish you were conflict free, right? And the only real failure is defeat. And so it seems like in wishing life was easier, there's a problem in just like finding the easiest path. right? And saying, oh, here's all this difficulty, here's all this adversity I could be going through, and let me just go through the easiest one. And that doesn't seem like a very fulfilling life long term. And so I love your inspiration and your creativity and the insights that you've given us here today. So what is next for you? How can we find out about the book and what you have going on and everything else?
Terrific. Thank you. Great question. Well, first of all, my book, 15 Minutes of Shame, check it out. It's on pre-sale now at Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's also with my publicist, Amplify Publishing Group. You can get that book now. Amplify has it available today. Amazon and Barnes and Noble will have that available on September 12th. Can't wait to get that out. I've got some. So next on the agenda is not obviously, but I'm going to do some keynote speaking about the lessons that I've learned. And it's all about resilience, adversity, courage to keep going forward. So that, that's going to be, you're going to see me on tour. I'm working on my second book now, which is really going to be very insightful for anybody who wants to get into business and succeed. It's called Think Your Way to the Top. A blueprint of success from an 8 times CEO president and 20 times board member. That's going to be coming out mid to late next year. I'll be not competing with you, but my business podcast is going to be Onwards, where I bring in key leaders to help talk around their adversity, resilience, and how they made it. And so people can learn. Again, non-competitive, Robert. I hope you're a guest of mine as well. And I'm still working on, the business world. I'm invested in different companies. I'm on several boards today, and I'm not giving up that I'll be a CEO of a very large company near you sometime soon. So lots of things, lots of aspirations. I've got more to hope for than I feel that I've achieved. I used to think for the longest time that I was waiting for things to happen. I no longer am doing that after my, tragic attempted cancellation. I'm now again with the mindset that I'm going to make things happen and again, be a force for good, make a difference, do well, do good at the same time. So that's kind of what I'll be doing over the next 24 months.
Incredible. I'm excited for you and what you have going on in the future. And of course, all these activities are helping you with your SEO game, right? Because right now, when I search your name, luckily I think the number 2 result was about the dog kicking incident, but it was on like your apology for that. So you could have easily just said, oh, there's all these tweets and all these like news reports about this mistake that they made that you've apologized for. But then it's cool that what's showing up at the top of the search engines now is kind of your rebuttal or your apology for that. And now you put out the book, you're doing these podcast guest appearances, doing your own podcast. So hopefully you'll be kind of just filling up the search engines with more of the recent good and the recent positivity, not minimizing or not ignoring the mistake, but then like embracing it. You have a whole book about it, and there are things to be learned, and where none of us are perfect. We're always improving. So I'm proud of you and happy to have spoken with you about your weaknesses and about just your growth as a person. And it makes me think about my own growth as a person. So I appreciate you, and everyone should check out 15 Minutes of Shame on Amazon, and then search for Des Hague on LinkedIn. That's first name DES, last name HAGUE. And is that a logical just ending point place to go? Just go and check out the book and keep in touch for what you have going on next?
Absolutely. And I would say you never judge a person by their worst moment, and you're going to find out, this is the situation. When you look through the prism of looking at negativity in a person's worst moment, you don't see the whole person. That's not how you would like to be judged. And just be careful. The mob's out there and will come for you if we allow this cancel culture to continue. So my Robert would be, we got to cancel culture, and that's going to take leadership. That's going to take a backbone. You can't buy a spine from Amazon. You've got to get up there and you've got to make things happen and say, this is unacceptable behavior. We don't do that. Move forward with positivity, lift people up, not tear people down. Thank you, Robert, for your time.
Thank you, Des. And we'll see you at 15 Minutes of Shame on Amazon.
Thank you.